Greetings ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the garage. Tonight I'm gonna replace the pickup coil on this 96 Triumph Adventurer. But before I get to replace it, I'd like to show you how I test them, how I diagnose them. So if you'd like to skip that part, please do. So I'm gonna start by removing these side panels. The seat is already off, so that's just to give me easier access to the pickup coil connector, which is down there. So the pickup coil is hidden behind this cover. This is the wire, and this goes under here, so there'll be a connector right there somewhere. So yeah, let me take these off real quick and we'll carry on from there. So I've got the panels off, and the first thing I want to do is find the connector for my pickup coil. So we know the pickup coil is behind this cover. This is the wire. We're just going to trace it back until we find the connector, and it's probably right this one here. But we can see as we pull on the wire, it's the same one. So definitely got the right connector. Just want to unplug it. Just squeeze on this tab and pull it out. And I'm gonna grab my multimeter, set on a scale bigger than 1000 ohm, 20 kilo ohm in this case, and just measure the resistance between the two pins and the connector. It's a bit fiddly. There we go. We got a resistance of 0.55 kilo ohms, so that's 550 ohms. And it would seem like this is a good coil, but as we'll find out a bit later, it's not. Another thing I like to check is with the bike running, see what the signal looks like. So we've got the coil plugged back in, and I grab two back probes and put them between the wire and the weather seal. I'm not piercing the weather seal, I'm just putting it between the weather seal and the wire. So when I pull this back out, the gap is going to close again, and make sure this is watertight. So yeah, I've got my two probes in. I'm just going to measure the resistance with my multimeter again, just to make sure they've got good contact. There we go. We've got a reading now. So I'm going to take my multimeter away and grab my scope. I don't want to take my picoscope and my laptop out right now for a quick job, so I'll just grab my hotel power scan, which has a scope function. I'm gonna set this up and be back with you in a bit. Right, so I've got my power scan here on the scope function. I've got a wire connected to it. I'm just gonna check the two back probes that I've hooked up here and see what it looks like. For that I need to start the bike, so I'm not going to talk in that period because it's going to be a bit loud. So here we go. So I hope the camera pick up the screen because it's a bit bright, but Yeah, it's not the best thing. Obviously, the picoscope would be much better and clearer on the laptop screen, but you could just about see what's going on. You could see the voltage, the frequency, and all of that changing. And although it looked a bit messy, it's not a very crisp signal. This seems to be a good coil, but we're gonna show you in a bit. It's not, and the reason I say it's not, it's quite a common failure on these bikes, on carb Triumphs in general. Is it's fine when the engine is cold, but as soon as it warms up, it loses that resistance, and it doesn't give a signal anymore. So the reason this bike is here is because it stops on the road as you're riding. As soon as the bike warms up, it just stops, and you can start it again after it cools down. So I would like to warm it up and reproduce the symptom, but it's a bit late. I'm filming in the evenings, and my little girl is trying to rest. So I won't do that. It's quite a loud bike, so I won't run it now. But I will take the cover off, I'll take the pickup coil off, and I will heat it up with my heat gun on the bench and try to show you what's happening then. Obviously I won't be able to show you a scope reading because I don't want to start the bike later. I'm just going to use the multimeter to check the resistance and see how that drops as I warm the pickup coil up. So yeah, let's go ahead and remove the cover and the sensor. So I'm going to remove my back probes. Gonna unplug the pickup coil and just pull the wire back until it comes out here. Just be gentle not to rip it out. There we go. And we're gonna take this cover off. We've got a little tray just in case something drips. Alright, we've got a bit of oil dripping. Right, just to give you a better view of what's going on. So this is the pickup coil wire. This is coming in, and that's our pickup coil right there. So it just has 2 torque screws to remove and take it out. And when we put it back in, I'm gonna show you, we need to set our gap between the pickup coil itself and these pins, these teeth that spin past it. So we've got the pickup coil on the bench here. I'd just like to take the time and compare it to the new one. So the wire output is on the other side, but apart from that, it should just fit. And the wire length is a bit, they're about the same. Right, so here we are. I've got my pickup coil hooked up to my multimeter with 2 little alligator clips. We can see our reading here, and I've got my heat gun. I'm going to use this to heat up the coil until we see the resistance drop. So let's give that a go. And as you can see, if you're looking at the meter, it's starting to behave funny all of a sudden. That's it. It's completely gone. It's completely gone. So I haven't actually timed that, but I think it was about maybe a couple of minutes, maybe 2 minutes. So yeah, we're gonna let it cool down a bit and see if it comes back on. So yeah, it came back on. As you can see, the resistance is higher, so it's actually going up a bit before it completely drops. So let's give that another go. So there we go, it dropped again. So this is what happens in the engine. The coil just gets warm. It's actually not even that hot. I can just hold it in my hand. The metal bracket is a bit hotter, but the coil itself, I can just hold it. It's not a problem. So yeah, in the engine, as it warms up, the coil gets hot and it drops resistance. So hopefully we're gonna solve that today by replacing this with the new coil. we're going to install this, we have to gap the coil. We also have to put some silicone around this rubber part to make sure no oil seeps out. And we also have a new gasket for the cover. So yeah, let's put those on. So I've got the 2 bolts for fitting the coil back on. I'm just going to spray them with some brake cleaner, clean them up a bit, and put just a drop of Loctite on them. Obviously you don't want these coming loose while your bike is running. So for setting the gap, I've got a set of feeler gauges. I took it apart just to make it easier for us. So the manual advises a gap of 0.6 to 0.8. And I'm going to be aiming to get it closer, but to be on the safe side, I've got a 0.6 feeler gauge. I'm also going to add a 0.05 feeler gauge to it. So these together should have 0.65. So that's what we're aiming for. So I've got the pickup coil in there. It's not tight, it's loose at the moment. And I've rotated the crankshaft so one of the notches matches the coil. So you should only turn the crank clockwise as the arrow indicates. We've got our 2 feeler gauges and we're gonna put them between the coil and the crank. There we are, that should be 0.65. We're just gonna nip these 2 bolts up. Doesn't have to be too tight now because we're gonna torque it to spec a bit later. That should be 10 Newton meters. So there we go, got this done. Feeler gauges slide in nicely. I'm just gonna turn the crank 1 full rotation and check each little notch just to make sure that none of them are closer than the other ones. So we're back where we started. This is the last one. And I'm gonna grab my torque wrench, torque the 2 bolts down to 10 Newton meters. Double check that and we're done. Here we go, got my torque wrench set up to 10 Newton meters. So I'm gonna do these. And now I'm just gonna double check that the feeler gauge still goes in. Right, that's it. We've got the new pickup coil installed. The wire comes out. I'll just feed it back through where it was, plug it back in to our connector. And sadly it's too late for me to start the bike tonight, but I'm going to put it back together. And tomorrow I'm going to fire it up and hope everything works fine. So guys, it's the next day, and as promised, I've started it up so you can hear it. It sounds very nice. And since I had the tank off and I was already here, decided to just check the carb balance and also see what the mixture is like with my color tune. And that was a good thing because it proved to be running rich, and the carbs needed just a slight adjustment, so good thing. But now that the engine's hot, I cannot torque down the spark plugs, so I'll have to leave it until tomorrow. Torque the spark plugs, put the fuel tank back on, and that's it. Thanks for watching.